A 50-cent lesson in persistence. Shortly after Mr. Darby received his degree from the University of Hard Knocks and had decided to profit by his experience in the gold mining business, he had the good fortune to be present on an occasion that proved to him that no does not necessarily mean no. One afternoon, he was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old fashioned mill. The uncle operated a large farm on which a number of sharecrop farmers lived. Quietly, the door was opened, and a small child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up, saw the child, and barked at her roughly. "What do you want?" Meekly, the child replied, "My mommy says send her 50 cents. "I'll not do it," the uncle retorted. "Now you run on home." "Yes, sir," the child replied, but she did not move. The uncle went ahead with his work, so busily engaged he did not notice that a child had not left home. When he looked up and saw her still standing there, he yelled at her, "I told you to go on home. Now go, or I'll take a switch to you." The little girl said, "Yes, sir," but she did not budge on an inch. The uncle dropped a sack of grain he was about to pour into the mill hopper, picked up a barrel stave, and started towards the child with an expression on his face that indicated trouble. Darby held his breath. He was certain he was about to witness a murder. He knew his uncle had a fierce temper. When the child, when the uncle reached the spot where the child was standing, she quickly stepped toward one step, looked up into his eyes, and screamed at the top of her shrill voice, "My mommy gotta have that 50 cent." The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, then slowly laid the barrel stave on the floor, put his hand on his pocket, took out $1 and gave it to her. The child took the money and slowly backed towards the door, never taking her eyes off the man whom she had just conquered. After she had gone, the uncle sat down on a box and looked out the window into a space for more than 10 minutes. He was pondering with awe on the whipping he had just taken. Mr. Darby, too, was doing same thinking. That was the first time in all his experience he had seen a child of a sharecropper deliberately master an adult authority figure. How did she do it? What happened to his uncle that caused him to lose his fierceness and become as docile as a lamb? What strange power did this child use that made her master over her superior? These and other similar questions flashed into Darby's mind, but he did not find the answer until years later when he told me the story. Strangely, the story of this unusual experience was told to the author in the old mill on the very spot where the uncle took his whipping. As we stood there in that musty old mill, Mr. Darby repeated the story of an unusual conquest and finished by asking, "What can you make of it? What strange power did that child use that so completely whipped my uncle?" The answer to his question will be found in the principles described in his book. The answer is full and complete. It contains details and instructions sufficient enough to enable anyone to understand and apply the same force that the little child accidentally stumbled upon. Keep your mind alert, and you will observe exactly what strange power came to the rescue of a child. You will catch a glimpse of the power in the next chapter. Somewhere in the book, you will find an idea that will quicken your receptive powers and place at your command for your own benefit this same irresistible power. The awareness of this power may come to you in the first chapter, or it may flash into your mind in some subsequent chapter. It may come in the form of a single idea, or it may come into the nature of plan or a purpose. Again, it may cause you to go back into your past experiences of failure or defeat and bring you to the surface some lesson by which you can regain all that you can lose through defeat. After I had described to Mr. Darby the power unwittingly used by the little child, he quickly retraced his 30 years of experience as a life insurance salesman. He frankly acknowledged that his success in that field was due in no small degree to the lesson he had learned from the child. Mr. Darby pointed out every time a prospect tried to bow me out without buying, I saw that child standing there in the old mill, his big eyes glaring in defiance, and I said to myself, I gotta make this sale. The better portion of all sales I have made were made after people had said no. He recalled, too, his mistake in having stopped only 3 feet from the goal, but he said that experience was a blessing in disguise. It taught me to keep on keeping on, no matter how hard the going may be, a lesson I needed to learn before I could succeed in anything. This story of Mr. Darby and his uncle, the sharecropper's child and the gold mine, will doubtless be read by hundreds of people who make their living by selling life insurance. To all of these, the author wishes to offer the suggestion that Darby owes to these two experiences his ability to sell more than $1 million of life insurance every year. Life is strange and often imponderable. Both the success and the failures have their roots in a simple experiences. Mr. Darby's experiences were commonplace and simple, rough, yet as they held the answer to this destiny in life, they were as important to him as life experience. He profited by these two dramatic experiences because he analyzed them and found the lessons they taught. But what of the person has neither the time nor the inclination to study failure in search of knowledge that may lead to success? Where and how are they learn the art of converting defeat into stepping stones to opportunity? In answer to these questions, this book was written. The answer called for a description of 13 principles. However, remember, as you read that answer, you may be seeking to the question which have caused you to ponder over the strangeness of life may be found in your own mind. Some idea, plan, or purpose may spring into mind as you read. One sound idea is all you need is to achieve success. The principles described in this book contain the best and the most practical ways and the means of creating useful ideas. Before we go any further in our approach to the description of these principles, we believe you are entitled to receive this important suggestion. When riches begin to come, they come so quickly, in such great abundance, that one wonders where they have been hiding during all these lean years. This is an outstanding statement, and all more so when we take into consideration the popular belief that riches comes only to those who work hard and long. When you begin to think and grow rich, you will observe that riches begin with a state of mind, with definiteness of purpose, with little or no hard work. You and every other person ought to be interested in knowing how to acquire a state of mind that will attract riches. I spent 25 years in research, analyzing more than 25,000 people because I too wanted to know how wealthy men become that way. Without that research, this book could not have been written. Here, take notice of a very significant truth. The business depression started in 1929 and continued on all-time record of destruction until sometime after President Roosevelt entered office. Then the depression began to fade into nothingness. Just an electrician in a theater raises the lights to gradually that darkness is transmuted into light before you realize it. So, did the spell of fear in the minds of the people gradually fade away and become faith? As soon as you master the principles of this philosophy and begin to follow the instruction for applying those principles, your financial status will begin to improve. Everything you touch will begin to transmute itself into an asset for your benefit. Impossible? Not at all. One of the main weaknesses of the mankind is the average person's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules that will not work. He knows all the things that cannot be done. This book was written for those who seek the rules that have made others successful and are willing to stake everything on those rules. And many years ago, I purchased a fine dictionary. The first thing I did was turn to the word impossible and neatly clipped it out of the book, that it would not be an unwise thing for you to do. Success comes to those who have become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become a failure conscious. The object of this book is to help all those who seek it learns the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness. Another weakness found in altogether too many people is the habit of measuring everything and everyone by their own impressions and beliefs. Some who read this will believe that no one can think and grow rich. They cannot think in terms of riches because their thought habits have been steeped into poverty, want, misery, failure, and defeat. Millions of people look at achievements of Henry Ford and envy him, his good fortune, or luck, or genius, or whatever it is to credit for Ford's fortune. Perhaps one person in every 100,000 knows the secret of Ford's success, and those who do know are too modest or too reluctant to speak it in. Because of its simplicity, a single transaction will illustrate the secret perfectly. When Ford decided to produce his new famous V8 motor, he chose to build an engine with the entire 8-cylinder cast in one block and instructed his engineers to produce a design for the engine. The design was placed on a paper, but the engineer believed it was simply impossible to cast an 8-cylinder gas engine block in one piece. Ford said, "Produce it anyway." But they replied, "It's impossible. Go ahead," Ford commanded, "and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required." The engineers went ahead. There was no other option if they were to remain on Ford's staff. 6 months went by and nothing happened. Another 6 months passed and still nothing happened. The engineers tried every conceivable plan to carry out the orders, but the thing seemed out of the question, impossible. At the end of the year, Ford checked with his engineers, and again they informed him he had found no way to carry out his orders. "Go right ahead," said Ford. "I want it, and I'll have it." They went ahead, and then, as if by stroke of magic, the secret was discovered. The Ford determination had won once more. This story may not be described with minute accuracy, but the sum and substance of it is correct. Deduce from it, you who wish to think and grow rich, the secret of the Ford millions if you can. You'll not have to look very far. Henry Ford is a success because he understands and applies the principles of success. One of these is desire, knowing what one wants. Remember this Ford story as you read and pick out the lines in which the secret of his stupendous achievement has been described. If you can do this, if you can lay your finger on the particular group of principle that made Henry Ford rich, you can equal his achievement in almost any calling for which you are suited. The Henry Ford of the late 20th century was Bill Gates. Just as Ford revolutionized the transportation industry by creating a car that almost anyone can afford and drive, Bill Gates transformed the computer industry by designing software that enabled everybody, not just the specialized technocrats, to be able to use computers, and later making the personal computer a virtual necessity in every office, school, and home. This resulted in Bill Gates accruing billions of dollars and becoming the richest man in America. He first became entranced with computers and began programming them at the age of 13. In 1973, he entered Harvard University, where he lived down the hall from Steve Ballmer, now Microsoft's chief executive officer. While at the Harvard, Gates developed a version of programming language, BASIC, for the first microcomputer. Gates was so absorbed in his dream of building a software company that he left Harvard to devote his energies to fulfilling it. A few years earlier, he and his childhood friend Paul Allen had formed a company, Microsoft, as the vehicle for his endeavor. Guided by a belief that the computer would be a valuable tool in every office desktop and in every home, they began developing software for personal computers. Gates' foresight and his vision for personal computing have been central to the success of Microsoft and the software industry. Having achieved his major goal, Bill Gates continued to pursue new goals both in the business of creating ever-improving computer programs and his philanthropic work, having founded with his wife Melinda the largest charitable foundation in the world.